This is James Ignatowicz. He has the fastest serve in all of pickleball. And today I'm going to be breaking down the exact technique behind his serve so that you can start hitting bombs as well. And before you jump to the conclusion that James has more power on his serve just simply because he hits the ball harder, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised to find out that you can produce similar power, if not the same power as James Ignatowicz, by following these 3 keys that we're going to go over now. Before we hop into it, huge shout out to the sponsor of this video, which is Selkirk. They make all of this possible. Thank you for sponsoring this video. This is the paddle that I use. It's the Amped Pro. It's $180. I absolutely love it. And a lot of you guys have been asking me my thoughts on it. This just barely came out, so it's now available and you can buy it. I love how it's a perfect combination of control and power. It's also super gritty, so you're gonna get a ton of spin on it. So if you wanna use the same exact paddle that I use, you can actually go through my link and use my code ADV-Playbook and you'll get a free e-gift card. And if you're looking to get more power in your game, the Power Air just came out with some really sick looking colorways. So if you want more power, you can pick one of those up. These are a little bit more on the pricey side. They're $250 or $255, I can't quite remember. But if you want to use the paddle that I use, Pro Amped, it's $180. This one's $250. And then the Lux Control Air is $250. I still love the Lux, but this gives me just a little bit more power, which I absolutely love about this paddle, and I feel like I need that in my game. So the first key to James's insane power on his serve is actually his legs. And what he's doing with his legs is he's holding them in a closed stance. There's closed stance and there's open stance. Closed stance is where you're facing towards the side fence with your feet, and open stance is where you're facing towards your opponents with your feet. So if you were my opponents, I would be standing in open stance right now. And if you were my opponents, I would be standing in closed stance right now, kind of putting my shoulder towards you. Okay, now whether one is better than the other, the jury's still out on that. But I will say that 50% of the pros use open stance and the other 50% use closed stance. All that being said, James does have the fastest serve and he uses closed stance, but do whatever's most comfortable for you. So further breaking that down, he actually points his front toe towards the net post, okay, towards that side net post over there. He's not just pointing it directly towards the side fence. And there's a really big purpose to that. And that purpose is that it's gonna allow you to be able to rotate through your shot a lot better. So if you look at his videos, he's kind of pointing it towards the side post, and that's typically what I do. That allows him to be able to rotate all the way through his shot. Okay, with an open stance, it's essentially the same exact thing, but instead of stepping with our dominant leg as I come through the shot, I'm actually stepping with my non-dominant leg and bringing it behind me. So I'm a firm believer that you can get just as much rotation by doing either, but like I said before, James Ignatowicz does closed stance, so might as well try that out and see if it feels comfortable for you. Okay, the last thing to know, and probably the most important thing about his preparation for this shot, is his knee bend. So he's not bending way low like you might see some pros do. He's just doing a slight knee bend. Slight knee bend, and then he's unbending as he hits through the shot and almost standing straight up. But that slight knee bend is probably 1 inch to 2 inches. There's not much to it. And an interesting fact is that if you actually bend your knees as low as they can go and try to jump as high as you can't jump nearly as high as if you slightly bend your knees and jump. So he's utilizing that same exact logic as he's hitting through his serve. And that's allowing him to have more power and more spin as he hits through it, just because he's doing a slight knee bend and then unbending. Now we're on to the second key to James Ignatowicz's insane power, and that's his actual motion as he comes through the ball. So a lot of amateur players will actually just drop the ball out in front of them before they make contact with the ball. And the problem with that is that you can't shape it as much as if you drop it towards the side of you. Something that James Ignatowicz does is he tosses it just outside his front leg, but also it's to the side of him. Okay, so it's not directly out in front, but it's just outside that knee, as if you were to draw an arrow from your knee to the ball out in front of you, and then you'll be absolutely set to plow through the ball. So something interesting about James is that he doesn't have a big backswing. So that load up does have a backswing, but it's really, really small. And then he creates a tiny little C motion as he comes through the shot. And then he dips the bottom edge of his paddle downwards right before he makes contact. Because that's one of the rules of pickleball. You have to hit it beneath your wrist. And so he comes in flat and then he dips last second. What that dip is doing is it's pushing his butt cap towards his opponents instead of the face of his paddle facing towards them. So it pushes that butt cap towards the face of his opponents, and then he pulls through and then windshield wipes up the ball. And then the most important thing is what he's doing with his non-dominant side, because that's gonna allow him to uncoil through the shot and create all that spin and power. So with his non-dominant arm, as soon as he lets go of it, he brings it in to his side here, and then it finishes out to the side of him. So all he's doing is bending that elbow in, and if you watch any professional tennis or pickleball players hit a forehand, you'll see they do that same exact thing where they'll bring that elbow in. That's allowing you to open up that shoulder, create that top spin on the ball, and get the ultimate amount of power as you uncoil. So you're bringing it in and up. You can also catch your paddle high, and that'll help you to get that elbow upward. Help you to coil through the ball. It'll also help you to not hit the ball into the net, because if you fail to do this and uncoil, your paddle face is gonna stay down and you're gonna stay down as a result, and you're not gonna be able to open up that shoulder through the shot and get the ball to go where it needs to go. You'll just stay closed throughout. Okay, now we're on to key number 3 to James's serve. And if you skip this aspect, you're gonna lose out on a ton of power and spin. So make sure that you pay close attention. But it starts with our legs and it finishes with our legs. So key number 3 is to move our momentum forward, and we're gonna come off of our dominant leg. We're gonna lift it up off the ground, and you're gonna finish with your dominant leg out in front of your non-dominant leg. Non-dominant leg starts out in front, and then your dominant leg finishes out in front as you come through the ball. And what that's gonna do is it's gonna allow you to be coiled when you start, and then uncoil, open up through that shot. That's gonna create tons of power and tons of spin. If you fail to open and just stay closed as you hit through the shot, you're gonna lose out on a ton of that power. So if you remember how we talked about before, how James has that closed stance and his non-dominant toe is pointing towards the net post, he finishes with his dominant toe pointing towards the other net post. So the opposing net post, that dominant toe points towards it. And that tells you how much uncoiling has happened. And the last thing to note with this serve is he's actually coming off of the ground after he makes contact with the ball. So he has that slight knee bend, and then he's coming off the ground right after contact. It's a very slight off the ground, but if you slow down the footage, you can see that he slightly comes off the ground. So that tells you how much he is standing and how much he's utilizing his legs as he comes through the shot. So it's such an interesting serve, and I've really enjoyed learning how to do it and then breaking it down for you guys. If James is watching this video, I'd love for him to comment below. Let me know how I did on breaking down his serve. And for all of you that are watching, if you want to learn how to do Kwang Duong serve, click this video right here, and I'll see you guys on the next one.